do it. We Jewish women promise you everything and cut off your hand. Always at it. We Jewish women cut off your head and then celebrate. Wine and cheese and all that is and you can be sure those Jewish widows know how to please, know how to please.
Sie machen sie allemal. Die jüdische Töchter. Sie sagen der Hals. Und ab mit dem Kopf. Wein und Käse und alle Meichel. Und die jüdische Töchter. Sie können verbringen. Es geht mal leicht mit jüdischen Töchtern. Ein kleiner Verwurmend, ab mit dem Kopf. Also machen sie allemal die jüdische Töchter. Zu sagen der Herz. Und ab mit dem Kopf. Sie sagen allemal. Wir jüdische Töchter, zu sagen dir alles. Auf mit dem Kopf.
Wine and cheese and all that is and you can be sure those Jewish widows know how to please, know how to please, and complain about the mess, the dirty Assyrian head. Make running across the clean, clean floor.
Okay, so Michael, is there anything that we need to know in terms of tech before I get started?
Yeah, just a moment. Get back to here. So, everyone is going to be on mute all the time, except Sean and Karen and the reader, whoever the reader is. I will be scrolling the text in front of you. I hope you can all see it. There will be another musical interlude in the middle. So if you want to ask questions, then please use the chat option to write, and Sean will pose questions either during or at the end, for which Karen can answer. If you, at the end of a reading, wish to unmute and applaud, that is permissible. But please go back onto mute. I want to give everyone the responsibility to mute and unmute. So I think we're ready to start.
Wait, I have a question. Question. I don't know how to use the chat. I click on everyone, I write a text, and then I click on everyone and nothing happens. How do I get my hello?
If you go on to more and you click on that, it opens up chat. You see chat.
More.
3 dots, right? The 3 dots. You click on chat.
Yeah.
And then
Save chat.
No, you don't want to do save chat. You just want
No?
to go to the bottom of the chat screen and do everybody, and
I
then
did that.
you can type in a message to everybody.
Well, I did that. Hello, everyone.
Hit enter.
But
Sorry.
You
You
nothing
have to
happened.
hit enter.
And then press enter at the end. Thank you. I'm now going to mute everybody
Press enter. Where?
on your keyboard. I'm now muting everybody. Let's go.
Okay,
Sean, unmute.
there I go again. Okay, so welcome everyone. You've just heard the music of Panic Ensemble and their song about the Book of Judith, the lyrics of which were drawn from a poem that is in this book, A Word in Edgewise. Ladies from the Bible Tell Their Tales. That's, of course, the book that we're here to celebrate the launch of. It's wonderful to see you all. We have an incredible array of speakers today. And thanks to the wonders of Zoom, we don't have to worry about overcrowding or like the awkward schmoozing and insincere welcomes and who is this person again? We don't got to do none of that. So we are just going to dive right in. As Michael mentioned, if anybody has questions, comments, you can use the chat. If time allows, we will get to answering questions, comments, and all that at the end. Now, due to time constraints, I'm going to have to limit my introductions of our fantastic readers to names only, but that might be appropriate for this evening because tonight we're giving our voices to characters from the Bible, some of whom normally don't get to have their say. With that in mind, I'd like to start with the lady who brought us here this evening. Please welcome Karen Alkalay-Gut.
Well, hello there. Welcome. I'm so overwhelmed. At this very moment, my computer started working. Not the right one, but it's working, and that means that you're all giving me good luck.
Hello.
Hello. And
Hello. My mom's here.
Please stay on mute.
What? Mute?
now you hear me. And this is not a computer I'm used to. Strange things may happen. My picture has disappeared. But we'll manage very quickly because the computer is coming back. Now, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy that there's so many different voices that we're going to hear tonight because the Bible has so many different voices and there's so many ways of hearing those voices and there's so many ways of speaking those voices. And so I'm so glad that all of you, or that some of you are helping me give that voice to the voices, that there's so many ways we can see the Bible and so many ways we can read it. I'm not sure, how it's going to turn out, because I know that afterwards you're going to go back to the Bible itself and say, she didn't say that, did she? Because they didn't. I'm telling you what they would have said. So we're going to start with, the fact that this is thank you to the Writers Association, the Israel Association of Writers in English, because without them, I don't know how this would ever happen. And Michael Kagan, who is the producer of all this and this series, and we've had a few this summer, and we're having more, and I'm only a small voice of it, and I'm really thrilled that you're all joining me with this. I will get less and less awkward as my computer gets fixed. In the meantime, I think I'm going to start with the reason this whole book started. It started with this song, "It Ain't Necessarily So." Remember the song? Here it goes. It ain't necessarily. Well, you may wonder why he fashioned them at all. Those vessels, those wombs, when he could have just taught Adam how to remove his own rib, to make his own sons. After all, most of us are not significant enough to be mentioned by name for generations to come. But somehow, they're the cusp of the narrative, the troublemakers, the heroines, the clafters. Start with, remember Eve? This is how I'd be Eve. I take a bite from the apple, and I know it's not enough. That knowledge will continue to drive me to transgressions long after we've left this perfect place of satisfaction. And the hunger that comes from eating will only grow.
Thank you, Karen. Our next reader is Joy Layden. Joy, are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. And sorry, the spam caller picked that perfect moment. This is called An Exercise in Eden and was written long before I read the poem that Karen just read, but feels like it follows so well. Every morning I stitch myself together the way God stitched skins at the gates of the garden for the children who were no longer children because they knew they were naked. Behind me, in the garden I was born too late to inhabit, angels soak the bowls and beds, gasoline gurgles from the cans in their hands. Now and then, a flaming angel lands, smoke of apples, grass, hives, nests, rings of smoke from my dead father's pipe, merge with the smoke from my mother's oven into smoke that says, I am.
Thank you, Joy. And now, with a poem featuring one of my favorite characters from the Bible, Karen, take it away. Did we mute Karen? Karen, come back.
Here,
You're muted again. There you are.
I'm on a computer that isn't as bright as I am. So please forgive me. Lilith's Creed. Now, 2 quotes. From Genesis 1:27, God created a man from the earth as he had created Adam himself and called her Lilith. That's alphabet Ben Sira. Oops, I mixed them. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Male and female. He also, says Alphabet Ben Sira, created a woman from the earth, as he had created Adam himself and called her Lilith. I could have done it myself. My body fashioned by the Lord himself in his image as well, with the additional ability to generate life. Could have done it myself. I could have created a universe on my own. A man who accepts responsibility. A woman with curiosity and wisdom as well to make the choice of the fruit with purpose. I could have done it myself, teaching my children with equal love, breeding daughters who do not kill their sisters, muddling generations to come with enmity. I could have created a universe that flourished, allowed marriages that functioned, joined with the other wives, the other mothers to sweeten the land of milk and honey. But that arbitrary order shaped by Adam, the rule of man over other beings, those simple positions he insisted on, made me prefer to fall out of the world. If he ever decides to try again, make sure man has little part in the delineation of authority. Thank you.
Oh, bravo.
Our next reader, continuing this little impromptu spotlight on Lilith, is Alicia Ostreicher. Alicia?
Alicia.
Alicia, are you here with us?
I am here. Am I unmuted? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
We can hear
Okay.
you.
Great. Hello, everybody. My Lilith and Karen's Lilith were created independently. I wrote this one decades ago, but you'll see it's really the same person. In my version, this is one of several Lilith poems speaking to Eve. Lilith unveils herself. Oh, I should say in my sequence, Lilith is Eve's maid. He think me evil. He be afraid of me and always desiring me, chasing my black behind and my woolly black hair. But it's you I'm after, girl. In the dark, when I slip between the two of you, whispering and touching, laughing in your ear, I know the man causes you pain, but you stay faithful. The man is boring, but you pay attention. The man, some cardboard heart, but you, a mother, watching your children hurt one another. I know how you feel. I bear 100 babies every day, and they die by nightfall. The man tells you to call them demons. To him, it is nothing if they die. But every midnight I kiss their dead brown faces, and then I creep into your house with my smell of ripeness, with my smell of corpses, with my ancient anger. You feel me squeeze between you and the man. I hug your body, girl. I breathe. Have courage.
Thank you, Alicia. Staying with the lady of the, well, the first lady of the evening, by the actual lady of the evening, Karen, tell us about the First Wives Club.
Oh, because I'm somehow muted.
Nope, you're back. We hear you.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
You can hear me. Okay, so I can't hear anybody else.
Can you hear me?
This is first time it's ever happened. You know, that's what they all say, right? You know, the story of it goes on, the First Wives Club. Adam and Eve immediately began to fight She said, I will not lie below, and he said, I will not lie beneath you, but only on top, for you're fit only to be in the bottom position, while I will be the superior one. Lilith responded, we're equal to each other in so much as we were both created from the earth. But they would not listen to one another. When Lilith saw this, she pronounced the ineffable name and flew away into the air. I was thinking of coming back, joining them both in a sweet little kiss. But no one else seemed to agree. It's easy to believe she is at fault, pettily keeping us apart, jealously guarding their stained marriage, like browns like a lace tablecloth in the back of the cupboard, while they meet occasionally in their missionary position. Not sure about Adam, a man of no experience with women. Why should he care how we did it, as long as it brings him a son or two? Come on, guys. It could still be great. I know every night you dream of me.
Excellent. Our next, yes. Our next reader is Mark Levinson. Mark, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Come on down.
I picked a poem that could have been voiced by Adam, but we won't look at that. My children, the son who found favor in the eyes of our Lord perished at the hands of his brother, while the other was sent away to wander the earth. I take great care that my third child shall make no sacrifices.
Nicely done, Mark.
Bravo.
Our next reader is Seymour Main. I'm kind of feeling like one of those fake psychics. Seymour, are you with us this evening? Give us a sign. Seymour?
You
Yes,
see me?
ma'am. There you are.
Yes?
You're up.
I read my poem first.
Sure.
Yes, Seymour.
Hello there. How many years ago has it been? A mazel tov on this. I try to think back the first time we met, but I think it goes back, 40 years or more. Sounds like the years in the desert. 40 years or more.
Let's not count.
All right, we won't. I can't count anymore. I've lost count. The children of Abel. The children of Abel, where are they? His children's children, great-great-grandchildren, all under a simple stone, forgotten for millennia, and crying out on nights like this, the clamor of their innumerable voices amplifying and growing unbearably louder and louder. The children of Abel, where are they?
Thank you, Seymour. Moving a bit forward chronologically from our Edenic trio, as it were. I'm up next. Okay, so this is a poem called Hagar, or in Hebrew, Hagar. And it begins with the biblical quote. The poem. Yes. On the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, Banish that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share the inheritance with my son Isaac. God said to Abraham, do not be distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to what Sarah says, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Genesis 21. And Karen's poem begins as such. I wouldn't have believed it. After all we'd meant to each other, those lonely nights when Abram took off on his desert wanderings, she was the one who offered to share him, you know. It was a kind of triangle. Some nights with her, some with him, some alone, listening to the way I'd listened to my parents as a child before they sold me to these monotheists. Continuing with the spotlight on Hagar, we have Simon Lickman. Simon, are you here?
Saw him.
Oh, you are here.
Yeah, this is one of my poems. I'll read one of Karen's later, I suppose. It's from a manuscript of poems after paintings of biblical scenes. And the painting is by Ferdinand Boll, and it's called Hagar and the Angel at the Fountain. It's like this. God knows you've had a rum break, and he wants to assure you that this kid of yours is going to be someone when he grows up. You know, like a father of nations, not a pisswilly troop of traveling goat herds. Vassals, feasts, glory, bit of hunger, little thirst, and before you know it, whammo, whammo, you'll have arrived. Demure at first, in the light of this celestial visitation. I like to think that suddenly her eyes flash. Screw you, Gabe. From here on in, I'll go my own way. And the angel tags along, does not go back to heaven.
Thank you, Simon, sorry. We have a brief musical interlude now by Panic Ensemble, a song called Sodom. Music by Roy Yarkoni, text by Karen Alkalay-Gut, and vocals by Yael Kraus. Michael, take it away.
1 second, let me find it. Here we go.
Look at the light, see the sky grow bright from the fire burning up. Last night we were one. I want you to stay in my eyes. Oh, the wildest night, holding the man and women of Sodom. I want to love them all.
Into the night, feel the blood dry out with desire, burning up. Tonight we are one. I want you to stay in my arms. Oh, the wildest night, holding a man and women in Sodom. I want to love them all.
save that last bit for the
Goes
next
on
one.
and on, but you don't really.
So, what?
I s-
Yes. So our next reader is Karen Alkalay. Karen, come forth, Karen.
Oren may be stuck in a traffic jam.
Yay, it's unmuted. Hi, everybody.
Oh,
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. So this too starts with a quote.
Mm-hmm.
Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom in the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father. Genesis 19:31. Lot's daughters think of their future. Listen, Dad, we know you're a little old for us, but we can't afford to be sentimental. I mean, look at that salinized mother of ours, immobilized by nostalgia. We've got to think about the future, new generations, a way out of this stinking cave. So you just keep snoring while we take it out now, gently, forgetting what it's connected to, and get the ball rolling. Yay.
Nicely done, Oren.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the soap opera part of the Bible. Brace yourselves. Our next reader is Robert Priest. Robert, are you here with us? Robert?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just tell me, this person in here, Laban, is it pronounced Laban?
Laban. Oh, we had
Laban.
some Bible lessons together, Robert.
Yes, a little later perhaps. Okay. The veil. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife that I may go into her, for my time is completed." So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. But in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me?" Laban said, "It is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn." Okay, here's the poem. "I wish I could forget that night he came to me, mistaking me for my sister. My father just outside the tent listening to make sure he penetrated my flesh before he took off the veil, so there could be no return. Each time I brought him a new child, I'd remember that look, my agony of revealed shame, his disdain. No wonder my sons hated anything that came from him, anything that could remind them of what he really desired." Now, should I be reading anything of mine?
Well, we're not doing, we're going like in chronological biblical order, so
Oh.
we'll get back to it.
We're gonna have an evening with you soon.
Oh, okay.
When you stand up. You stand up poetry.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. Okay, our next reader is Marjorie Perloff. Marjorie.
Can you hear me?
It's the
Loud and
unmute.
clear. Yes.
Okay. This is Leah. I picked that because I thought the underdog kind of is a very good poem of Karen's. Now, Laban had two daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Genesis 29. Just because I wore glasses, just because I was the older one, just because she was prettier, I got to be the fake package in the scam. I got to be the surprise present. I got to be the bait and switch. I got to be the veiled lady. But try to explain this. How come I was the one who was always pregnant? Maybe he didn't know the first time. Still, after a while, he must have guessed that I wasn't the one he loved. Nevertheless, he kept on straddling me even when he had the choice of 3 others. Maybe it was just because I multiplied like his spotted goats.
Bravo.
Excellent. Thank you. And of course, you know, we can't talk about Leah without talking about Rachel. Karen,
No,
tell us about Rachel.
I'll tell you about Rachel. Because Rachel is the one that couldn't get pregnant. So Rachel, now the Bible says, Rachel had taken the household gods, the gods, and put them inside her camel's saddle so that she was sitting on them. Imagine that. Laban searched through everything in the tent but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, "Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I'm having my period." So he searched, but he could not find the household idol. You know where she hid it. So I'm sitting on this phallic symbol I borrowed from my father, and I tell him I'm on the rag, so he won't check the camel saddle. I'm riding on my own, and he leaves me alone, searches everywhere inside the tent, then gives up and goes home. And I remain with this little idol that pretty much gets thrown out, but may well have helped give me another son to provide for Jacob the love he was always missing.
Thank you, Karen. We're jumping forward another century or two, give or take. You know, the Bible isn't exactly precise about these
It's the
things.
son. It's the son of Rachel.
Oh, well, you can tell I'm not up to date on the latest.
Right.
From soap opera to melodrama.
I think we're going to have to read these books again.
We may have to. Our next reader is Janita Goodblatt. Janita, are you here? Janita, come forth.
I unmuted. Is that okay?
Oh, there you are. Hello.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Loud and clear. Take it away.
Okay. Joseph and me. Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a time, his master's wife noticed Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused. "Look," he said to his master's wife, "with me here, my master does not concern himself with anything in his house, and he has entrusted everything he owns to my care. How could I have known? Even his brothers found him an insufferable prig when I saw him in the doorway, his boyish torso framed by the light. How could I have known it was a game he played with everyone, more innocent than thou? I see a kid striking poses in the field whenever I look out the window and say, I know how guys your age are hungry and shy, and I've seen the way you look at my thighs. And he says, oh lady, I'm in charge of your husband's house, but it wouldn't be nice to take his wife. We men have an agreement about sharing shadow. You're right. I should have known to stop there. If I'm the boss's wife, my body's not mine to screw. But who would have thought a slave could refuse the offer of an equal? So I got left holding the robe that reeked of his refusal, feeling like a fool and wishing I'd had sense to dress up as an anonymous whore and get my reward like Tamar did only a few pages before.
Yikes. Thank you, Janita.
You're welcome.
We are turning back to Simon with a story about Yocheved. Simon.
We have this unmuting takes forever.
Yeah.
Unmute. Unmute.
Unmute, Simon. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah.
There you are.
I was just delivering my bar mitzvah speech. Now I'll do your poem. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. Tell me that Moses didn't get his smarts from me. Even though I was hidden from view, I was thinking outside the box, put my baby into one and floated him on the river. Not only did it save his life, but after the boy was fished from the depths of the Nile, I got paid for nursing him. Still, even though I launched everything in the chapter we Hebrews call names, I have none.
Thank you, Simon. Continuing our exploration of the Moses saga, we're back with Seymour.
All right. You hear me?
Loud and clear. Come on in.
All right. Cell phone call between Miriam and her brother. Hello, Moses. Moses cried to the Lord, please heal her. Hello, Moses. This is your sister. When you get a chance, give me a call. Hello, Moses. It's me again. I know you're pissed about what I said about your wife. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to let go. Hi again, Moses. Nobody's talking to me. Just because I dared criticize you. I don't want to bring it up, but I'm the same sister who saved your life out there on the Nile. Hell, I risked my own. Shh. Moses, hi. Thanks for the cure. I owe you one.
Thank you, Seymour. Our next reader is Dara Barnat. Dara. A few seconds to unmute.
I should be giving Bible lessons because I realize how you have to have known the chapter and the verse and the background. I didn't know that before. I thought it was obvious.
Save that for next time.
Next time.
Dara, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you now. You're talking about Moses, Karen? Yeah, because this poem, it continues on with Moses, but of course it's like one of the Israeli women wandering in the desert for 40 years, called A Woman in Sinai. And what's, I guess, a little different about this poem compared to some of the others is that the epigraph is from Yehuda Amichai, from a poem called Miracles. So these two lines are even a crosser of the divided Red Sea, could see only the sweating back of the walker in front of him. And that's a translation by you, because I looked it up. So thank you, because it's a beautiful one. So the poem is A Woman in Sinai. My only love is a mirage. In all the seasons it goes before me and has brought me from pagan darkness into bright desert sun. But when the elation of liberty passes by like the angel of death, the anticipation disappears. The magic tricks of our leader cannot mask the meandering that proves he has no idea of what our destination is or how to get there. He vanishes, that old mirage, and I'm lost without a guide, a god, camping by a hill that seems the same as any other. Then one day the dawn turns bright. He returns and brings us no elegant truths, no delights, only laws to confine us. And we remain without our gold, with only hope, the hope he gave us then, a hunger that wanders and never ends.
Thank you, Dara.
Thanks.
Speaking of gold, you guys all know what happened next, right? Marcella Sulak, are you with us?
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay,
Tell us about the golden calf.
all right. So let me tell you about the golden calf. The people saw that Moses tarried in descending from the mountain, and the people gathered around Aaron and said, "Rise up and make up a god to stand before us." And Aaron said, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives and your sons and your daughters are wearing and bring them to me." And all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron, and he took what they had and they took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf. And then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." You have to admit that the appeal of a god made from your earrings, a part of your purest, loveliest dream, the very lobe of your allure. It's the same God that emerges from your loins in the dance, the same God who gives such joy in possession, the same God who says, "All passion, all truth is in your moments of greatest pleasure."
Thank you, Marcella. That was excellent. We now have two poems from our technical director of the evening, Michael.
Yes, just one moment. I just have to find myself. I'm trying.
Don't we all?
There are 58 people. Here we go. Here I am. This is me. Right. So, besides being the name of my sister, for those who don't know, Devorah was a judge in the time of the judges, which was about 2 or 3 generations after the Israelites entered the Promised Land. How hard could it be for me as a woman, sitting under a tree, providing advice, predicting victory? Riding with 10,000 men was more exhilarating, chasing Sisera to his phallic doom. But since I'm a woman and a judge, I can't help but think of his mother, waiting for him by the window, hoping for some glittering plunder, wondering how many female Israelites he may have impregnated, how many times she will be made a granny. And now there is my story of Devourer. And at the end of the story of Devorah, which appears and then disappears very quickly, it says, "And the land was at peace for 40 years. I gaze across the fertile valley, transfixed by the great mound that arises unbeckoned from the Emek floor. Mount Tabor, oy, I sigh. A perfect breast with a colossal cup, and a nipple amidst a wooded areola, perched in awesome transfiguration, right there at the top. This is Devorah's mount, a remnant of that stinging hornet, who out of nowhere appeared like a palm tree in a parched desert, to heed us, to judge us, to free us, to guide us to war. But when it was all over, when the dust had settled, when the blood-laced milk had ceased to flow. This woman of valor, this woman of song, succeeded where all others had failed, to mute the lust of men, to devour their passionate swords. So all that remained was a silence, an audible quiet, unlike anything we've ever known, before or since.
Bravo.
Fantastic, Michael.
Ooh.
And now for another one of my personal favorites, we turn back to Alicia Ostreicher. Alicia?
Unmute, please.
It's unmuting, so that
Yeah.
we wonder what happened. Where is that person? But she's right here, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, Delilah. And he told her all his heart and said to her, "A razor has never come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If my head is shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." From Judges 14-16. And here is Delilah's voice. "Lilith, my mother, once told me, you get a real rush from being on top, making the strong man bend to your desires, especially if you get paid and go down in history as irresistible. I watched the rich locks fall curl by curl and buried my face in their beauty, even forgetting for that joyous moment I will be the cause of the downfall not only of him, but my own people too. What do you do with a man who knows where you stand but keeps coming back for more? After the first couple of treacheries, it should have been clear to any normal guy that I love my money and my land more than him. Certainly more than his people, who didn't do much to welcome me. But he hung around, so sure he could master any challenge in any situation that I could stick him with.
That was great, Alicia. Thank you. Moving on to another very intriguing character who much is said about her, but she doesn't get to say all that much. Karen, tell us about Bathsheba.
I got to tell you that it is, I really do feel there are all these voices coming out of the Bible saying all kinds of different things. And I picked the ones that are the sexiest. Or I tried. But even Delilah, well. All right, Bathsheba. I have these social climber friends that inspired this poem. One evening, David walked around on the roof of his palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was lovely to look at, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him and he slept with her. So David sent his word to Joab. "Send me Uriah the Hittite. Put Uriah up in front where the battle is fiercest, then withdraw for him. So he was struck down and died. And Uriah the Hittite died. I married Uriah for his glory in battle. Bathed on the roof because he was never far from war. I bathed on the roof, said only that a man higher than me could see. Only a man higher than mine would be able to replace him. Only a man higher than mine would see who I was. I bathed on the roof, made love to the air, the jasmine filling the dusk, the water cooling my dusty skin, the night descending on my opening flesh. I married Uriah for his glory. On the roof that night I woke to what I had not known of love. A man higher than mine saw me on the roof, watched my waking, brought me to the towers of Jerusalem. And thank you. I'm doing another one. Got another one for you. There's all these ladies that you never hear speaking in the Bible, and they're very incredibly erotic. I mean, if you have Avishag, the Shunammite, the story goes that King David was very old. No matter how many clothes covered him, he could not be warm. His advisors told him, let us find a young virgin to serve you and look after you, my lord, to lie in your arms and keep you warm. So they searched throughout the land for a beautiful girl, and they found Abishag from Shunem and brought her to the king. The girl was very beautiful, and she looked after the king and took care of him. But the king did not know her. It wasn't as bad as all that. He did have remnants of the old ways about him, warm and desire, as if he were still standing on his balcony looking out at a woman on the roof of her husband's house across an impassable course, bathing. I would weep with him at first, remembering that boy torn from me by my parents' loyalty to the king, and he would stroke my hair so sweetly I understood all the women who wrote psalms in his praise. He warmed my bones so that entire generations to come hunger for him. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so the next poem is called Solomon. I'm doing this one, but it's a take on a story you've all probably heard before, but you've never heard it like this. I promise you that. Solomon. So the Bible quote goes, "Then the king said, 'Bring me a sword.' So they brought a sword for the king. He then gave an order, 'Cut the living child in two, give half to one and half to the other.' The woman whose son was alive was deeply moved out of love for her son and said to the king, 'Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him.' But the other said, 'Neither I nor you shall have him. Cut him in two.' Then the king gave his ruling, 'Give the living baby to the first woman. Do not kill him. She is his mother.'" Kings 1, chapter 3, verse 16 to 28. And the poem goes like this. Let's go over this one more time. "Here's the baby, born of me, but the neighbor says he belongs to her. And the judge looks like he really doesn't care which whore wins, just wants this case as precedent. And the baby is making enough noise to give us all a headache. So the judge whips out his sword and says, we'll just slice him up the middle. And I think maybe in my job, have it, sell it, and you still have it. But being a mother is about loving, not owning. And I slip myself in between him and the sword. The judge says, it's yours. And I say, you just don't get it. Our next reader is Libby Sporin. Libby. Join us, Libby.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. Jezebel, 2 Kings 9:29. Falling from a high place with paint on her face, once sure it would save her from the prophecy repeated like a leitmotif through chapters of Kings, meets the dogs as she hits the walls and cobbles. They rise to greet her.
Thank you, Libby. Our next reader, jumping forward again a little bit in the chronology, is Deborah Guth.
Hi, everyone, can you hear me? Hi, Karen. Yep. The whole Megillah, otherwise known as the Ganze Megillah. They were right about Vashti. To ignore a king is the beginning of the end of a reign, from India to Ethiopia. And that is a sin women can't afford to commit. If you want to win an empire, you should wait at the door until the king grants your existence, and then say, if it please my lord. And a good meal is much more appealing to win a king's heart. Invite him and his weird friend to a banquet, and then make your request when their stomachs are full. That way, not only can you save your people, but kill 75,000 others. If it please my lord, that is power.
So it is. Thank you, Deborah.
I hope you ask questions afterwards. And I hope you ask questions of the readers as well as me. Because
absolutely
so many things that are. Oof.
So our last reader is Joe Rosenstein, who is reading my favorite poem in the book.
So for those who don't know, I'm Karen's brother, and the reason I picked this poem, among others, is that it mentions in the second line the Kippur Shul, and I figured I was the only person here who would know what that refers to. In fact, I'm probably the only person who ever reads this poem who will know what this refers to. So I'm sitting here in my favorite place in the women's balcony of the Kippur Shul, just above the place where they read the Torah, and I can almost make out the letters. Of course, I'm forbidden to know the language.
No, I can't hear.
Of course, I'm forbidden to know the language it's written in, but fortunately, my companions can tell me the stories firsthand. Except for Eve and Lilith, who sit on opposite sides of the benches and glare at each other, everybody has something to say. You should have been there, says Rebecca, when I first saw those jewels. You'd think I'd have the sense to figure out why they sent a servant to court me instead of the bridegroom himself. Talk about blind matches, Tamar intervenes. I got 2 loser husbands, and was lucky to get one more chance to get some seed before my biological clock ran out. From below, the Torah readers stopped the ceremony, banged on the table, and raised their faces at us to shout, "Shah!" And we lower our voices for the moment. Then the old ladies begin their harsh whispering. Me? I was fine before the flood. But can you imagine what it was like hanging around an old man who knew he was the only righteous one in the world? At least he didn't try to kill his son, Sarah says from the corner. I had to deal with a traumatized kid for the rest of my life. Kvetch, 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 I suddenly intervene. We could go on forever, but we just repeat ourselves over and over every year.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, so at this point, everyone can unmute. I'm not seeing any particular questions or, in the chat, so come on in.
I have to tell you about this, especially about the poem my brother just read. When we were young, little, I sat upstairs with the women in the kippur shul, and the men sat downstairs, and the women were not, couldn't really hear what was going on. And I used to sneak down to my brother and tie the things of his talis together so he could get all stuck up, because I couldn't hear what was going on, not only because what was going on, because they were reading the Torah and it was down there and they were all facing down, but also because the women who couldn't hear were gossiping. So this was probably the whole source of this book of poems, this word in Edgewise, where the women of the Bible tell their tales, because these women who didn't know Hebrew, knew only Yiddish, and these women just would go there and try to figure out for a minute what was going on, and then just give up and talk about who went out with who and who looks like he's getting bald and so forth and so on. So, but Joe is really the only person who knows this experience, as far as I know, in this whole group. And so I have to explain it. There are other people who know about the Bible, some of them, but you got to look at the stories again to see what I'm talking about most of the time. I realized I'm really not very clear all the time. So I'm sure that you have questions for me. And Sean,
I have a comment. I have a comment. That was wonderful, first of all. Second of all, hello to everybody who I know from the outside other alternative world. I tried to use the chat and failed to say hello to everybody, but I also want to say that I never realized until now, one, how all these women have a sense of humor. Isn't that interesting? The men don't have much of a sense of humor, but thank God the women do. And the other thing is, I never realized before how many of the women are from other people. They're not Israelites. They're Hittites. They're from here and there, and they get involved with the Jewish men, which makes everything more interesting.
There weren't enough to go around. we had to get together. That's why we have to be friends with each other, because there's not enough people like us in the world. But even Ruth, Moabite, I mean, most of our ladies are not, somehow not really kosher.
One thing I'm curious about, looking at sort of the book as a whole, are there any women whose stories you didn't get to tell in this edition that you might want to revisit in the future?
But you know, there's Rahab the whore that everyone talks about. There's Jethro's daughter. There's so many women in the Bible who never say a word, and things happen to them all the time. I mean, there's many more that I talked about in the book, but then there's a lot more that I didn't talk about. Those are two examples. There's just so many examples of women who come from other places. I didn't talk much about Sarah, who was Abraham's half-sister, or maybe, and his wife, sister, his wife, his sister. I didn't talk much about that. You know, there are all kinds of stories there that I never got to, and I invite you to look into and find out more about, because I mean, there's something weird going on there, and I think that it's not unintentional that they're hinted at. That means, I mean, that you know, it's not unintentional that you want to find out more, and they're protected, but you can always kind of see a little bit through the veil that about their lives, about what's going on with them. That was, did I answer?
I can make it. I have something as like a follow-up from that. Maybe, Karen.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, I'm wondering to the extent for you that this kind of work, which is like a kind of midrash, was intentional, you know, like that was like at the core, a kind of mission of the book. And just to say that that's something that I really enjoyed in all these poems, that each one gives you this kind of space to like do this work of not just listening to the voices of each character, but really explicating and unpacking and exploring the stories and discovering the voices in some cases, rediscovering them. Of course, they're filling in gaps. They're like speaking for themselves. These are kind of like your own imaginings of them. But yeah, I would like to speak to, like, if you can speak to something about the intention, like your earlier intention. I'm curious.
Yes, please. Yes, I think that if women just took over and stopped kvetching about how they have no power, if they just took it, I think that we would be that we would have a much better world. I mean, not to be political, but I know that if Hillary Clinton had been president, they would have had health care, and Corona would have been a different thing. I think that women have a power, because they have a power to control households. And where I come from, where I come from, where my grandparents came from in Lithuania, the women ran everything and ran it well. And we don't run things anymore. We say, oh, you know, we need me too. Oh, he did this to me, or he tried to. There are things that can be done, and I think, but especially politically, I'm very that I said, take a look at these women. Take a look at what they did. Take a look at how, okay, maybe they did it in like what Debbie read, the whole Megillah. maybe they did it very, naively and pretended they were just being a woman, but they did things that had great effect on the world, and I think that that women should be taking responsibility, for what's going on in the world, and I don't think we do. And I
Thank
say
you.
we because I don't,
We try.
I want to pay everybody a compliment from New York. This is Nikki Stiller. I hope to become a member of your association. That was glorious, Karen and everybody else. And I was really marked by the sexuality in the poems, because I find in Anglo-Saxon poetry, including my own, it's not much that's sexual, overtly sexual. And I really enjoyed that and appreciated that. And I think that hasn't been expressed as much as it should have been in the past. And I congratulate you on being so bold.
Nikki, you're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stiller.
I have, can I say something about that? I think that
Sure.
Yeah, say something.
That the expression of sexuality, of eroticism is part of the power that women need to take the responsibility for their sexuality. And I'm playing around with all these ladies who are, I'm sure they were temptresses. I know that Ruth on the floor, the threshing floor in, the book of Ruth. I know what she was doing. I know, okay. Sexuality is part of it. It's not all of it. It's not all that happens, but it has something that has to be acknowledged and taken in response. And I really hope that you'll go back and read the Bible as it should be after this, because I don't mean to be heretical about it, about the Bible. I just want it to be looked at a little deeper, because I want myself to look deeper into myself.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was waiting for the lightning hiding under my desk. My hands were over my head.
Yeah.
You have about 5 minutes left for the event. So Bill, go ahead, and then final comments from Karen.
I just have a question. The poem that ends with "You just don't get it." I didn't.
I didn't tell us.
I'm not sure it's. I'm not sure it works. I'm not sure I pulled it off, but the joke that I heard from a World War II British captain was that a prostitute once told him, "It's a wonderful job. You have it, you sell it, and you still have it." But that's what, that was, she says that's within her job. But she says being a mother is about loving. It doesn't matter whose it is. What matters is whose life it is. But she's trying to save his life. She's not trying. She says, let him have it. Let the other woman have it, but I don't want it dead. I think that was the point of it. And I think that sometimes when we do when we talk about the judgment of Solomon, we don't emphasize that.
The story has been told and retold so many times, but one of the things I really like about it is I think this might actually be the first poem that looks at other people in the room besides Solomon and asks what's going on with them, because the point of the original story is just to show how wise Solomon is in setting this trap. But there are other people who are involved in this story, and I think this is the first time that you really see through their eyes this whole process and what's going on with that.
Where it worked. 'Cause I have a problem with that, whether it works or not.
Simon.
She's not 75.
We are just about out of time. Karen, do you have any final comments?
Simon does. Simon has
I just want to say that the mother in the story, I think this is what you captured, Karen, the mother wasn't saying what she said in order to keep the baby.
Yeah.
She was saying what she said to dissolve the situation and save the baby. And that's what he didn't get. Solomon thought his judgment was clever.
Yes. And it was clever.
Clever, but it was the woman.
It's the way we interpret the story.
It was the woman who was the cleverest because she was able to give it up.
But possession is part of what I keep talking about in Lilith and Joseph and me. It's always about learning about how you can't own something. You can't tell somebody what to do. You can't, they can't always be on top. You can't, they can't always be on the bottom and you're always on the top. We suffer a lot that way.
I want to just add one thing about the poem of mine that I read, Devourer. I invite all those people who are not familiar with the north part of Israel, that when you can, at the earliest opportunity, come and visit, stand in that fertile valley and see this enormous mound rising up in the shape that I see it. So I welcome you all. We can have plenty of poetry evenings when you arrive. It's a sight to be seen.
In fact, you can even sit under the tree that they say Devorah sat under and judged, and we can have a poetry reading there as soon as we can.
Can I make one quick comment? That I also wrote about Mount Tabor and its incredible geometry, the geometry of the breast in my first science fiction novel. Why is Unit 142857 sad, or the Tin Man's Heart?
It's an interesting setting. I hope that hopefully the next time we'll be able to actually gather there instead of this whole bunch thing we've got going on. I want to thank all of our readers, all of the people who have attended, have taken the time out of the day to at least get dressed in the top half. Effort is appreciated. It's not taken for granted.
Everybody stand up.
And I hope that we will get to have many more of these events in the future.
Please, can everybody go off mute and give a big hand to Karen?
Wow. Please come back, for we have many events, and
we have coffee next time too.
yeah, well, right now, if you like, we have Schweppes. I would love to see you all again. And we can continue this privately. I know that we're going to stop it. So good night to all of you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Next time.
Thank you, everybody.